So, new format, new month. We all spending our money on rent, car expenses, and of course, for you esteemed individuals, Yu-Gi-Oh statues and OnlyFans. Now that I think about it, might need to make an OnlyFans to get some more money. What's going on with ya, big dog? And of course, it is an amazing day for Yu-Gi-Oh! I hope that your day is going phenomenal, but if it isn't, don't let what happened at the beginning of your day ruin the rest of your day. Today, for you broke Yu-Gi-Oh players, myself included right now, we are going to be going over a budget tier list. We will be ranking some of the most powerful budget decks from the top budget decks that you should seriously consider playing to, you're better off paying that past due bill. In all seriousness, some of these past due bills can wait. As you already know, I got 5 different categories here, 5 different categories to be able to rate some of these budget decks. The first one is going to be top budget, the best budget decks that you should strongly consider if you are a budget player trying to win games. The next is the next budget. These budget decks are fairly cheap, may not have proven themselves as being top contenders, but I feel very strong about them. Will take time is either two things. One, it can be cheap right now, but you're going to have to pay some money to get the good cards. Or two, competitively, do you want me to tell you? You're on hopium or your brain's just not big enough. Let's just be honest. We're glue eaters. We don't read. A lot of effort is exactly what it is. This is pretty much that 20-year-old car that your dad has in the backyard and he's saying, oh, all I got to do is drop in a new transmission. It'll be good to go. Give it up, Pop. It's done. And lastly is better paying off bills, which is 100%. Oh no, what are you doing, baby? We ain't paying off no bills. We trying to play Yu-Gi-Oh here. There's also one more thing that I like to mention. I put some of the most popular and some of the best strategies on this tier list. Of course, I couldn't mention every single one. I want you to post down below in the comment section, what deck did I miss and you would like to see rated? If we see enough of it, we'll put it on the next tier list. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump on in as we are going to start off with one of my favorite strategies of all time. Ironically, Dino Morphia is in here, but Dino is going to be here. I'm going to keep it so 55th Street with you guys. I got to keep it a buck. This is a strategy that will take time. Now, Dino isn't necessarily an expensive strategy unless you are going for a synchro route, which is going to require you to get expensive cards like Borreload, Savage Dragon, and since you do link summon a lot, Appaloosa Bull of the Goddess, which depending on your budget could take some money. But the biggest problem with Dino competitively is being able to play in the later stages of the game because Miscellaneous Ceres is at 1, and if you're playing cards to recycle Miscellaneous Ceres, that those are cards that probably should be Miscellaneous Ceres. Basically what I'm saying is free my boy Misk. We already have Pot of Prosperity as a reprint, and we also already have Small World for the players that can't afford that price drop in Prosperity. This will be a powerful deck. All we need is more Dino support or Misk off the list. See, it even rhymes, so it gotta happen, right? Invoked, okay, I will 100% agree. I was on massive hopium last tier list. You got me there, okay? In the meta tier list, I said that Invoked was a tier 1 strategy. Yeah, that was huff and hopium. To be fair though, we didn't have a lot of data about the format, and I did say it was a bold take. It's still a very cheap and effective deck in Yu-Gi-Oh right now. The entire Invoked engine has been reprinted into oblivion. As long as you're not going YOLO swag ultimate rare invocations, then you'll be okay. Also keep in mind, Invoked can be played in so many different ways. You can play the Shadal Dogmatica version, you can play the Outledge version, you can play a lot of versions, even maybe a Dino version. Okay, I'm definitely on massive cope at least. That's not how you want to play it. But one thing I do want to praise is Invoke's versatility and its ability to be able to use super polymerization better than most Yu-Gi-Oh strategies. It does make it a really good, nice, versatile budget deck. Crystal Beast, this was actually, I'm actually really happy to say that this, it's actually not there. Crystal Beast is better off paying the bills. It's actually really, really good in budget. It is 2022. I never thought I'd say Crystal Beast is good ever. But here we are, and the reason why I have such a big change of heart is because a lot of the Crystal Beast decks that I've seen, they were trying to summon Rainbow Dragon with 11,000 attack. Buddy, I don't know what she told you, but it doesn't matter how much attack the monster has. It matters about the size of, well, moving forward. While I will admit Rainbow Dragon Overdrive is a pretty cool looking card, needing to play all 7 Crystal Beast or more Crystal Beast than you ever want to play is not the move, but I do think that Conclave Control is really good, and inside of the Crystal Beast structure deck, you get 3 Ash Blossom Joyous Spring, which may not be the best hand trap, but hey, I mean, it's versatile. I genuinely think Conclave Control as a budget deck, buying 3 copies of the Crystal Beast structure deck pretty much gets you there, could do some pretty good damage. So Ignister and Cyber's decks right now are going to take a bit of a step back. And the reason why I say this is because hand traps are not as effective as they once were. But if we were to be really objective, I'd still say that they're still fairly good budget decks. In Ignister's case, not only can you play it with the Mathmech strategy and make a huge Arrival Cyberse monster, you still have Mathmech combos, which are really cool. But the problem with these Cyber strategies right now is its over-reliance in hand traps, and hand traps not being really effective right now outside of cards like Dimensional Shifter, and I would have to go ahead and say maybe Drooling Lockbird as well. DDD unfortunately takes a rocket science to be able to understand, and as my great aunt would say, ain't nobody got time for that. We're not related, just in case you guys wanted to say we're related. And I'm really not putting it past you guys to say that I'm related, because you think me and Trell are the same person, and y'all just don't know. Despia is easily, and this is not Hopium Copium here, it is a top budget Yu-Gi-Oh deck. Despia is still one of the very few decks that can Scythe lock, and you guys should already know how problematic Artifact Scythe is inside of a current format. Like, where's the ban? But players have also been experimenting with cards like Ra's Disciple to special summon on your opponent's side of the field, because Forbidden Droplet is being played a lot less. Not only does Despia have that going for it, players are starting to play Dimensional Barrier a lot less, and it also does get more support when Darkwing Blast comes around, making it a very solid, viable contender deck. But if we were to split it up, even just the Owlbash strategy or the Branded strategy is just so powerful because it's splashable in so many different decks. So I would encourage you guys to go ahead and pick up the Branded strategy by buying 3 copies of the Owlbash structure deck and then picking up the Branded cards that have been inside sets. I think for what it's worth, True Draco is ridiculously good. I just finished making a True Draco deck in $30, legitimately $30. Your phone bill isn't even that cheap. Dog, I remember back in my day, you could get bread, eggs, milk, a stripper, and a pack of bubble gum for $5. Now I can only get the stripper. I like that True Draco's price upscales with how much money you have. Being as cheap as a structure deck and never being a structure deck type deck is really cool, but also having the ability to play some of the best floodgates or just about any floodgate in the Yu-Gi-Oh card game, because you can tribute them off when they're inconvenient, is what makes True Draco a really nice next meta budget deck. There's also the possibility that Dragonic Diagram and Masterpiece come off the list, but yeah, we both know that's Hopium. I've been huffing a lot of fumes as of recent, as you guys can tell, but zombies, yeah, that's pretty much right there. So with the ban of Kriston Hockley Fibrix, Zombie's normal combo is dead, and then with also the banning of Chaotic Ruler, Punk Zombie is pretty much dead. So you can resort to playing something like Branded Zombie, but that's just a lot of effort. Zombie is in a really peculiar spot right now, especially since Zombie World really only affects the tier limit matchup when they're trying to fuse into Kid Kalos. I don't think that that's enough to make it, you know, one of those decks that you should really look out for when in terms of budget and power. Drytron is a pretty good budget deck. We've already talked about this before when Diviner of Herald gets its 2022 Mega 10 reprint, that there really wasn't going to be much that was expensive for Drytron. Maybe if you decide to play great going second cards like Forbidden Droplet or even cards like Ultimate Slayer, that would be a hurdle. But outside of Drytron as a core, I mean, it's ridiculously cheap. Also, of course, there's Cyber Angel Benson the 3, which really helps this deck. And what also helps that is that there are multiple different rarities of Cyber Angel Benton to keep the strategy cheap. Drytron could theoretically be more prepared in this format than any other deck on this entire list because it doesn't rely on hand traps, just really strong going second cards. There's also Mystic Mine, which you can destroy yourself inside of the strategy to break your opponent's boards, and it can main board Floodgates, summoning monsters like Majesty's Fiend or Vanity's Fiend or all of the fiends to your side of the field. From here, Outlich is tier 2 in our meta tier list, but is one of the better budget decks inside of Yu-Gi-Oh! I'd be lying if I didn't say it were Floodgates in the ease of Floodgates, but it's Floodgates. One of the most chronically annoying decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a set 5-row Helmet Pass deck, but Outlich kind of does it with style. You can't really be mad when Outlich the Golden Lord is just styling on his chair like that. I mean, it's kind of cool. And for the players that were probably wondering what would be the best zombie variant, it would probably be Outlich Zombie right now, but you could probably just play Outlich or Outlich Invoked or Outlich Branded and have better results. It still feels ridiculous to say heroes in budget because this deck is notoriously expensive, but as long as you don't look at the really shiny cards like Masked Hero Darklaw Ultimate Rare or Destiny Hero Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer as a Starlight Rare, then you're pretty good. Speaking of such, Destiny Hero Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer not only got a Starlight Rare version, a card did go up which was Fusion Destiny. That card subsequently went to 3 on the last Forbidden list, but it doesn't even matter. Not only is that card like already a card that should be in your arsenal as a hero player at 3, but even if you couldn't afford multiple copies, you could just always fuse with polymerization to make your Destiny Hero Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer until you can afford the Fusion Destinies. Heroes are an extremely solid rogue contender deck, and Exosister may just be one of the better decks of them all again. Now, we talked about Exo Stepsister being one of the best budget decks in our budget video, our top 5 budget decks video. And the thing that I like about Exo Stepsister is that when they get stuck in the dryer, Martha in specifics. There's also Milky Mama. When she gets stuck in that dryer, man, I'd like to help her out. Figured out my OnlyFans. Exo Sister stuck in the dryer. Dog, imagine having to pull those cards out of your dryer. I mean, they're like in your jean pocket or backpack or something. Whoever watches their backpack is weird, but imagine that would be a good video. Exo Sister has already proven itself as one of the best decks in Yu-Gi-Oh, but I really like how this deck is extraordinarily cheap still. The Exo Sister cards didn't skyrocket in price despite Exo Sister winning a high level event, and that's because players say, oh, it's because of Mystic Mine. Well, Mystic Mine still exists. So if cards like Mystic Mine and Necro Valley are the reason why Exo Sisters won and those cards are still unlimited off the Forbidden list, then you could already expect Exo Sister to be one of the better budget decks inside of the game. Fluenderies also was another deck that easily makes a top budget deck. This deck is like, it's like $30, isn't it? The Fluenderies cards are extremely cheap outside of Fluenderies Advent of the Adventure. And then, of course, you already know because of Dimensional Shifter in its reprint, this is a deck that is extremely easy to get a hold of. I really am struggling to find expensive cards because cards like Pot of Prosperity can be easily substituted for cards like Pot of Extravagance until you get the cards that you need. I mean, I guess any deck that can main Dimensional Shifter is good, right? Because all 3 of these decks can main Dimensional Shifter. Oh, God. Labyrinth is 100% on the cusp of a very good budget deck. My biggest problem with Labyrinth is because somebody said, oh, waifu decks, and proceeded to buy out the Labyrinth cards, even though you probably should have listened to me because I already told you that these cards would skyrocket before they're going price because they were already good cards. Even though you probably should have listened to me because I already told you that these cards would skyrocket before they're going price because they were already good cards. But the problem of the matter is that Labyrinths are fairly expensive for what they're worth right now. Unfortunately, I think we're in a really peculiar spot. If Labyrinths become a very competitive deck, they may not be budget anymore. So you might have to take a risk and pick up the Labyrinth strategy beforehand, but then you just might be paying for very, very expensive cardboard that is good, but is a deck that will take time to fully complete. There is only one card in Earth Machine that deems itself as an expensive card. You guys should probably already know what it is. Easily, Machina Citadel. I mean, that card's a whole 30 cents, right? Sheesh. You can't even pick 30 cents off the ground anymore. The most you can get is a quarter. And let's not cap. During these type of recessions, you ain't finding no quarters on the ground. At least not around me, dog. Earth Machine players have did it again, reinventing the wheel, guys. one of the best inventions of all time, moving away from a stun deck because players have realized that cards like Gozen Match and Rivalry of the Warlords are easily thwarted by Cosmic Cyclone and Sprite Smasher, but also figuring out that Earth Machine is a deck that can just summon huge monsters and generate advantage. We don't have Maxi in the TCG, so get your Therion King Reguluses, which are the most expensive card for Earth Machine, and be able to pilot this deck to great success. I think Marine Cess will take a backseat to the Ignister strategy, not because it's a bad deck. It's strictly because hand traps just aren't great Yu-Gi-Oh cards right now, and all of the cyber strategies are currently suffering from it. On top of that, this is a format where players are mainboarding that back row hate to be able to get rid of cards like Gozen Match. And unless Marine Cess can consistently protect that particular card, which isn't always possible, then this deck will struggle inside of the format. Mathmech pretty much is going to fall in the same line as Ignister right here. This is a strategy that could be combined with Ignister itself and does get the mark over Marine Cess because it doesn't rely on a Floodgate Yu-Gi-Oh card as opposed to Marine Cess, but still, hand traps are not powerful right now, so it's gonna struggle. The biggest problem with Plunder Patrol, and the reason why I put it in will take time, is because you have two options with this particular strategy. The first is that you have to wait for cards like Magician Souls and Illusion of Chaos to be able to get into your deck to make it faster, or the Adventure Engine, which of course does cost a lot of money, or B, you play more hand traps. Well, option A means that it's a budget deck that will take time, and option B isn't necessarily very optimal for this format. On the bright side, we are in a format where players are playing a lot of Dark Light and Water monsters, so being able to special summon from the extra deck to your side of the field is fairly easy. As long as you don't go against a Flaunder-Reese matchup, I think you're going to be looking for some booty every round. Solomon Great goes in the exact same spot as Marine Cess. These two cyber strategies are a little more back row reliant as opposed to these two cyber strategies, but I think that they all again struggle because of the hand trap situation. Sky Striker, if you're playing this deck, you're better off paying off the bills. I mean, don't be that guy. Don't play Spellbook Sky Striker, Mystic Mind Runic. Don't be that guy. You're gonna be that guy, aren't you? Well, if you really decide to be that guy, it's actually going to take some time for you to be able to get the runic cards for the Sky Striker engine. And then, of course, out of the Spellbook cards, Spellbook Fate is already $50 for an ultra rare, and you need the 3 copies. There's also Mystic Mine and the Sky Striker cards rising themselves. This could be a budget deck, but it's one of those budget decks where it's not really a budget deck. It kind of reminds you when you get with that girl and she's like, I'm not expensive, I'm cheap. And then you get in the middle of a relationship, you're like, yo, I had enough money for a house. Spellbook is easily better paying off the bills. Now, I'm not going to tell you to pay off William too much because we faking it until we making it. We balling until we ain't no more. But Spellbook isn't a bad deck. It's just a very expensive deck. We already talked about Spellbook Fate being a $50 card, and the best way to play Spellbook seems to be Runic. Well, you might Runic your wallet if you want to play this deck, which means that you're in the wrong tier list. Spellbook Runic might actually be a top contending deck, but for budget players, it's a strategy that unless you've already had the cards since Dragon Ruler format, you're not getting these cards for the low. Sword Soul is 100% a deck that will take time. On surface, Sword Soul looks like a fairly cheap deck, with Sword Soul Moye being $20, something that you could handle. The entire deck still comes to about that $100 range. But then you start looking at the extra deck, and then Baron de Fleur pops up, and you're like, yo, why didn't this get reprinted in the Megatons? Now, I do think that Baron de Fleur and Sword Soul cards will be reprinted in Magnificent Mavens, but until then, you're going to have to deal with this deck being a deck that will take time to be able to build up to. Tri-Brigade, easily one of the top budget decks. We looked at this strategy on stream, and I think to get everything for this deck, it was like $30 or something, like just the core cards. That's actually really cheap considering that Tri-Brigade was once a fairly expensive deck. To be able to get cards like Tri-Brigade Fractal costed you a Full Metal Alchemist arm and a leg. And then there's still some really nice cards for the deck that allow you to play very well into this format. I'm a little bit sketchy on the new support in Darkwing Blast, but to be honest with you, there's a lot of cards that have came out that I was really sketching on and wound up loving. Kind of like Terrors of the Overroot. What is that? Trickstar is actually a lot better than what I gave it credit for. If there is a hand trap that you should play, Droll and Lockbird just might be one of the best, saying that every deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! Searches, especially the spell-heavy decks, cough, cough, Runic. And the best thing about Trickstars is being able to use Trickstar Reincarnation alongside Droll and Lockbird to banish your opponent's entire hand, and they won't be able to draw a card from their deck to their hand. If you go get some of the cheapest Trickstar cards, this is a fairly decent budget deck. I would strongly consider picking this up if you are a huge Trickstar advocate. Unchained is easily a lot of effort right now. The Unchained Mafia might just come after me. You guys are so cool. I just want to put it out. I love you guys. But Unchained just ain't it right now. Being a deck that doesn't have the greatest interactions against some of the best decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a problem, but I don't think Unchained will stay at a lot of effort for long. I am pulling for this deck, mainly because I'm not trying to get dragged all over social media, but also because I like the archetype. Small spoiler, my top 5 favorite types in Yu-Gi-Oh! Are going to be, in no particular order, Fiend, Worm, Dino, Zombie, maybe Cybers. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. BBW. That's a combination of Beast, Beast Warrior, and Winged Beast. And lastly, a lot of people sleep on Virtual World because they say consistency issues. But overall, Virtual World is a fairly fun, customizable budget deck. I actually built a competitive Virtual World deck in about $40, and I'll be including that on my Patreon, as well as potentially putting a dual challenge out there. We're gonna try to clap June up with a $40 Virtual World deck. The biggest takeaway from Virtual World is that it plays nice with all of the Psychic and Worm strategies. Take, for example, Sword, Soul, or Punk, and since you don't need your normal summon, those decks can freely normal summon, or you can exchange it for an adventure engine if you do have the money. And this is a deck that has always played better with board breaking cards rather than hand traps. I gotta give it to the Virtual World strategy. It is sneakily good at its really cheap price. And that is all that we have for the budget tier list. I'm excited to hear, did I miss some particular strategies? Did I put a strategy too high, or did I put a strategy too low? I want you guys to let me know down below in the comment section how wrong or potentially how right I am, but also be sure to check out these videos. Actually, just click on this one. It's fucking exciting.